Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the second day of Gaia-X Summit 2025. Just a few notes before we start. So, I hope, first of all, that you had a great evening yesterday on the boat, if you had the opportunity to travel with us. And we are ready for another exciting day full of new discussions, insights, and networking. As we get started, I'd like to remind everyone about our summit game. You are playing? I hope so, because it's not too late also to get started on that. And now let's talk about the Tech Theater, which is about to begin also. You can see the full agenda on the screen. Yes. And today, the Tech Theater dives into the new release of Gaia-X, the Noob. So we will start on the Tech Theater with an introduction to its core concepts, ontology, and implementation examples, followed by a live Q&A with the CTO team. So it's great if you like technology, if you like to put your hands on the code, the Tech Theater is the right place to start. So later on, we will have also a session on integrating Eclipse Data Connector with Gaia-X Trust Framework, the Open Source Awards, and several presentations from the open source software community featuring practical tools and updates from Delta DAO and the Eclipse Foundation. And I think that the day will wrap up with the insights into Gaia-X version X, those of the extensions, and with another Q&A with the CTO team. In parallel, there is running on the Biblioteca, so the Partners Theater, that offers a series of sessions hosted by our partners, sharing real-world insights and experiences. These sessions are organized by our Gaia-X partners, showcasing real-world implementation and use cases from across industry. So you will hear presentations from Pontos X, Ocean Enterprise, demonstrating how Gaia-X enables pan-European industrial data spaces, a session from the aerospace sector, sharing strategy to scale data spaces and onboard ecosystem participants, the GTC 25 presenting the maturity model for assessing and improving data space readiness. You also can attend presentations on traffic flow data space and on building real-world digital continuity. So the Partners Theater is a fantastic opportunity to see how our community is bringing Gaia-X concepts to life and learn from partners driving real-world implementation across industry. So check your agenda and see what are the sessions that best interest you and go whether the plenary, the Tech Theater, or the Partners team. And now I ask everyone who is in the expo area to come to the plenary, because we are starting with our next session. We begin with a session hosted by Gaia-X Institute, exploring the contribution of artificial intelligence to data interoperability of data spaces, a key enabler of Gaia-X vision. Please welcome our moderator, Hubert Tardieu, from Gaia-X Institute, who will lead this discussion. Hubert, the floor is yours. Thank you.
So, thank you. I would like to introduce the three panelists. There are only two mentioned on the screen. So I'll start with Professor Rehoff, who is Professor of Computer Science, TU Dortmund, but also one of the directors of the Lamar Institute. And at my left, Professor Toledano, who is Professor Emeritus associated with the Governance and Regulation Chair at Paris Dauphine. And next to her is Luca Eustache, who is also from Paris Dauphine and who has been absolutely instrumental in what I will now present. So just to tell you, Gaia-X Institute has been created 3 years ago in about September 2022, and it was created to tackle in advance new challenges. And among these new challenges, which we're seeing at that time, we had the economy of data sharing and automated compliance, to which we have recently added data interoperability. And this morning, we shall address economics of data sharing with the recommendation included in Season 2, and you have heard of Season 2 many, many times since yesterday morning. Season 2, especially this economic viability of data space at the end of the funding. And we will have also a feedback of the economic theater, which took place yesterday, which will be presented by Professor Toledano for the feedback of the economic theater, and Luca will present the advance in terms of economics of data sharing. We will have afterwards a presentation by Professor Rehoff about data interoperability, where we stand, and he will also mention automated compliance. So without further ado, I hand over to you, Luca, to present the data sharing economics.
Thank you, Hubert, for this nice introduction. Hello, everyone. Thanks also Gaia-X for the organization of this event. So this morning we will introduce with Joël two things. First of all, the recent development of our research on the economics of data sharing and the economics of data sharing ecosystem that we are running in Paris Dauphine University in collaboration with the Gaia-X Institute and with some of you that we interviewed during those past year. And the second time, Joël will introduce you the feedback of the 7th session that we hosted yesterday in the economic theater. So, sorry for the form or the quality of the slide. We just finished them yesterday quite late, but we can continue. I don't have the. Okay, so we are now studying the economic viability and the dynamic of data sharing ecosystem for a few years in Paris Dauphine, and the recent development was to focus on what we call the trajectory of the data spaces. We have to understand that those data spaces, they are like multi-organization organization, a super-organization of several organizations that aim to share data and aim to co-create and to develop new services and value-added services. And those organizations, they are like a dynamic organization. They follow a path, and we study some conditions that shape the viability under this path. So how to read those conditions is some focal point that every data sharing ecosystem should pay attention in order to go from one stage to another one. First thing that I want to mention, and I don't want to talk for Joël, but one of the first feedback that we can have from the economic theater is compared to a few years ago, enormous progress have been made by the actor in the sector and by the operational in the sector, and we are now quite happy to have some really mature discussion about the business model and the economic model of data sharing ecosystem. So I will introduce you those conditions. the first condition, and probably this is the two first, let's say the condition 0 and the condition 1. The condition 0 is to find a subset of participants that want to share data together. It can seem a bit trivial, but regarding a few years ago, it wasn't the case. And now the sector and the actor collectively acknowledge that it's super important at the design stage before the ecosystem is launched to find and to understand what is a subset of participants that is required and that is relevant to start the initiative. Once this subset is found, we need to put them around the table and we need to make them and to help them to collaborate. That's the work of the organization of the ecosystem, that's the role of the orchestrator, but that's also the role of the technical intermediary that should bring a technology that is rational in order to align those interests regarding the value chain characteristics and regarding the profile of the participant. The second condition is the investment. For sure, you all know that, but at some point we need money to start the initiative. And what we want to mention here is that this innovation is made in this investment, is made in the context of innovation. We all know that the data sharing ecosystem and running a data sharing ecosystem is a complex and long process. And what I really want to tell you is that this complexity is not the curse of data sharing ecosystem, but this is a feature. We are working with data. Data is an enormous complex object. We can call it in economics as an experience good, meaning I know what is my willingness to pay or what is my value that I can derive from the data once I have the data. But before I have the data, it's a bit hard to tell exactly what I will do with them and what value I will extract from them. So maybe we will fail, maybe we will correct the trajectory from the beginning, but we first need this innovation stage where we start to launch services, where we start to develop services and to correct by incremental process the direction that we are taking, and that's what we are calling innovation process. So the investment is for sure risky, but this risk is like normal and is tied to the deep nature of the economic activity that run a data sharing ecosystem. Third of all, is to enlarge the ecosystem and to increase the amount of activity. There is two ways of doing it. There is a first way that is within a use cases, so to increase the number of participants that participate to a given use cases by managing network effect. For those of you that know platform economics, we can find those network effects at the level of the use cases. So the more participants we have around the services, the more value is derived by the participant from these services. But there is also another way of increasing the economic viability, and that's mainly the most important one, is to develop new use cases. And to do that, we have to understand that the technology is at the service of the use cases. Meaning, and that's also an enormous progress that has been made during those recent years, is that when I develop a use cases, I have to think about the following one, the one that will be here after, in order to develop a use cases with a baseline that I can use and reuse again to develop new use cases. Meaning if one use cases can be a good idea, but way too far away from the core activity of data sharing ecosystem, maybe is not a good idea yet. But the logic is really like this almost recycling logic of developing use cases that can be reused to develop additional one. For sure, when we will, and especially when we will develop use cases, people will put more and more data, they will engage more and more in the ecosystem, and then the risk increase. And here also the technology has to be rational. At the beginning, when participants are just trying and putting like a low effort, let's say, in the use cases, the risks are not that high. But once the solution will start to deliver value and the participant will integrate more and more within the ecosystem, then the risk will increase, and the ecosystem, both the orchestrator and both the intermediary, need to deal with those risks when they exist and when they increase. Before the last condition, one of the most important, we heard a lot about catalog and marketplace yesterday, and I think we'll heard a lot about it today. What we want to say by avoiding the transaction trap is that we are building ecosystem, we are not building a market in the economic sense. Meaning, if I go on the Amazon marketplace for Christmas to buy a gift for my family, I don't need to know the seller. The only thing that I need to know is how much I need to pay to have this good. I don't need to know the seller, and the only things that will convey the information and the only things that will coordinate me and the seller will be the price. It's not like this in ecosystem. I need to know the person with who I will share my data. I need to know the person with who I will share a service, and we need to work together to co-create these services that will bring value to both of us. And that's a key difference with market, and it should be taken into account. Saying that, you can have still a transaction within the ecosystem, for instance, to cover the cost. But what is important is that this is not the price that will coordinate the actor within the ecosystem. And finally, we talked also a lot about sovereignty, and that's an important feature. Sovereignty matters because, in fact, it helps to avoid a lock-in effect. It helps to avoid being locked by a tech provider that we are not controlling anymore and that benefit from his dominant position to us to extract the more value. And data ecosystem are built against, or some of them are built against those players, and it should remain like this. So data sharing ecosystem should reassure participants that even if they integrate more and more and their information system is developed to work with the data sharing ecosystem, they will not face a lock-in by the orchestrator or by the technical intermediary by providing, for instance, credible exit strategy or interoperability with different tech providers and different solutions. I will just say that, as I mentioned in my introduction, data sharing ecosystem are dynamic organization, and those conditions can vary depending the stage of the ecosystem and during the lifespan of the ecosystem. Saying, if you are running a data sharing ecosystem, you don't need to focus on all of those conditions at the beginning, but some conditions will be more and more important depending in which stage you are actually. But I will stop here and let Joël introduce the feedback of the economic theater of yesterday.
Thank you, Lucas. Tu passes. Merci. So, as Lucas yet told you, we have yesterday a very, let's say, occupied day with 7 discussions, 7 very interesting discussions with different point of view, but you know, we see a real difference from last year. Last year, it was the first year we were acting in the economic theater, and yesterday we have seen 7 cases. We don't finish our job, and because after this seance we will have 2 more, and I will not be able to speak about them because for sure we will discuss after. But we have seen something. Let me just give you the list and some comments about this list. So the first was a French one about health. We have seen a second one about health on the afternoon, but it was the first one, Health Data Trust. We have seen a second presentation about Aerocid, who are presenting services and data sharing in airport, but with a very interesting idea about recycling the same process for infrastructure and infrastructure with people coming in different situations. The third one was third case, AI European project for judicial expertise. Okay, is the idea for the judicial expert to share the expertise, to have to facilitate the process for the expertise. Smart living next. So it was the 3 first are French case. The 3 after our German one, and the last one was a Spanish case. So the 3 German first is about residential data sharing for energy and health. Second, about health, but very different for the first one coming from France. Cofinity X, it's not by itself a data space, but it's a service for data space that are that is developed first with automotive, but with idea to have in other sector. And the last one is a multi-sectoral Spanish data space. Just one point. The idea was to discuss with a different case on the Chatham-House principle. The idea is, so it was not marketing presentation where, let's say, in French we will say tout le monde il est beau, tout le monde il est gentil. So everything is nice, and it's next year everything will be perfect. But really to discuss on the project, what are made, what is not on the table yet, and so forth. And as it was a Chatham-House principle, I will not be presenting you project by project, but thinking about that a little bit before the boat and after the boat yesterday night, we just want to give you, let's say, 3 ideas we had looking at the different case. First one, it was clear for us that today technical intermediaries remain an ad hoc assembly of several suppliers. We have also seen idea about a one-stop shop, but we feel that just until now there are specificities, and it's not clear what is about a sectoral solution and about a general, let's say, horizontal solution. So we don't know. With the idea is that maybe in season 3, or maybe at the end of season 2, it will be possible to have a real one-stop shop, but it will be a necessity, because for small companies, it seems to be very difficult to make this assembly. So it's first idea about the technical solution. Second one is about the use case. In some case, we have presentation showing us collective value creation, but without let's say, a possibility for one of the actors, or maybe both, all of the actors, to extract the value. So what maybe you have to have in mind is that collective value creation doesn't guarantee the success of a use case. It's also necessary for this value to be extracted by the actors involved in the use case, because if not, they will not finance it. Third and last, let's say, idea is that the development and the viability of use cases are the rationale of the governance. If you separate governance and principle to deploy use case, you know, I have a wording in French I am not able to translate, but it's as if you have a clue on one side and a hammer on the others, and it's not the same person that has both. So you understand what happens. So it was, let's say, the 3 main ideas we have yesterday night.
Thank you, Joël. I do not know whether we have time for question. If there was a burning question for those 2 presentations, I'll be happy to take it, because this is a very live matter, as you know, and we know that will be no successful season 2 if we do not gradually sort out this kind of challenge. Do we have a burning question in the room? No. So, but it will, you have a question for Joël.
No, I don't have a question for Joël, but it was just to say that as we are working for now a few years on this project, and thanks to you that you open frankly your door to us and to let us asking you question, we finally deliver an academic paper that is peer-reviewed, and I put the link on the QR code. See if you're interested about the detail of the study, feel free to download the paper and to read it, and then to come to see us to say why you agree or why you don't agree, especially that's how research is moving forward. Thank you.
Okay, so it means that we need to scan this thing. And so be nice. instead of making your mail, take a scan of this in such a way you can answer to the questionnaire. Okay, we keep it open because I don't think you have slides, Jacob, so we keep it open for the next 10 minutes. So I will now hand over to Jacob, who will cover really two topics, what we did in the last 3 years about automated compliance and what we started to do about data interoperability. Jacob.
Thank you. In the interest of time, I'll make the backwards-looking section short, looking back towards the topic of automated compliance. Let me just confine myself to saying that this is a very important problem that still exists, because it's not a problem you could meaningfully think of just, solving in one concerted effort, because it's a very complex, very broad, and very deep topic. I'm very pleased, though, to see that the concept has stuck with Gaia-X, automated compliance and automated compliance by design. If you listened carefully yesterday, you would have heard this topic coming up several times, not least in one of the sessions where quite a bit of work using the cloud data engine work was mentioned in several projects, and there you could see the topic being quite alive, and so I'm really pleased with that. Now looking ahead, I'm going to do two things. One, I'm going to latch on to the talk by Christoph Sternadel yesterday. He was talking about the prospect of using Gen AI for solving the data interoperability problem, which is sort of a problem that's been with us since the beginning of computer science and computing, and it's still with us, and it's a key problem for the core mission of Gaia-X, because if you want to share data, but you can't interpret that data, it's not really flying, right? So data interoperability is really about making sure that there's a common interpretation of data coming from multiple sources. That's a fundamental problem. In computer science, we haven't really done that much about this problem over the past couple of decades, I would say. Of course, there's been work going on, and it's been fine, but there hasn't really been a single breakthrough, I would say. But with Gen AI, this situation is changing. We're seeing generative AI being used to automate parts of software engineering, which I think is going to create a revolution in software engineering, automating a lot of tasks which have hitherto been manual. And so the idea in the Gen AI project that Christoph Sternadel was talking about yesterday is that we're now going to try to mobilize some of our research institutes. We're going to mobilize the Lamar Institute, which I'm co-leading in Dortmund and Bonn. We're going to mobilize the French Institute, ANIT, in Toulouse. And in the context of the Gaia-X project, also mobilizing Fraunhofer Institutes in Dortmund and Bonn, we're going to see if we can actually do a focus project trying to really demonstrate that it's possible to solve data interoperability issues automatically using modern Gen AI technology. For example, by automatically generating code to do data transformations and do mappings from data sets into ontologies and such topics. And I think that's a really exciting prospect where, in fact, Europe and Gaia-X and the international data space initiatives could really be playing a leading role. Okay, so I'm totally excited about that. For that, we need data. We need data and we need metadata. Once we have that, we can really start making progress on these interesting problems. But without the data and the metadata, there's not much you can do. This is also one of the reasons why, in fact, it's interesting to observe there hasn't really been that much work for this specific problem done yet. There's a lot of work, generic work, done especially by the American hyperscalers, ChatGPT, Claude, you name them, all these engines. They're automating software engineering in general. But looking at the specific problem of taking advantage of these modern revolutionary technologies to solve the data interoperability problem, there is spectacularly little work out there. There is some, but not much. And that's a great opportunity, because I have no doubt in my mind that there is actually real and fantastic progress to be made there. The only question is who's going to do it, and I want us to be the ones who do it. So that was latching back to the topic of Gen AI for solving data interoperability, which will be a core topic for the Gaia-X Institute, the research institutes, in the coming period. Now, latching on to another talk, great talk from yesterday by Stefan Robel, we're looking more generally towards the future in terms of vertical AI. That's a fantastically important topic for Europe. We're not going to be able to compete with the American hyperscalers when it comes to, developing generic horizontal language models based on internet data. What we can do, though, is we could play a leading role in vertical AI, in specializing AI for specific sectors, specific industries, or specific scientific areas. In fact, if you look at science, it's a great place to look towards to see what we can do there. European physicists in CERN have been throwing AI and machine learning technology at data analysis problems for many, many years, even going back before 2015, way back. 2015, I take as sort of the year when everybody became aware of AlphaZero and started to understand that there's a revolution going on here. Physicists in CERN have been throwing deep neural networks at data analysis problems years before that. Life science is another area where in the Lamar Institute, for example, we have great strength. And these people have been throwing AI and machine learning technology and at problems of, drug discovery, protein synthesis problems and stuff like that, even before the revolution was clearly there. So if you look at those areas, you can understand what we can actually do. We can do deep progress, but again, for that, we need the data. And so the great opportunity, which was also mentioned, I think, in the Draghi report, is to think of data sharing for AI. That is, if you can share data, you can collect data, then you gain an advantage in training next generation models. That's, I think, a fairly obvious opportunity where Gaia-X and the data space initiatives could play and should be playing a key role. But if you now think of Gaia-X as sort of an infrastructure provider, you can go to the other side of the coin, which would be more like AI for data sharing. You have data sharing for AI, but you also have AI for data sharing. That is, using AI technology to enable data sharing. And for example, the project I was talking about before, generative AI for automating data interoperability, is an example of that, but that idea could be taken much further. Think about the next generation machine learning and AI-enabled agents working at the service of data sharing to automate a lot of the processes that are involved in sharing data. So I think that's sort of the larger scale vision, if you want, for the future that I see for the Gaia-X Institute. That is AI for data sharing together with data sharing for AI, thereby creating possibly a kind of feedback loop, a spiral, a virtuous circle. And if we can get that loop running, we're flying. Thank you.
Thank you, Jacob. So I'm sure with that you see what the Gaia-X Institute has done in the last 3 years. And I think we have been lucky to identify ahead of time those challenges which will be important 3 years afterwards. And I am extremely proud on behalf of the Gaia-X to say that our anticipation proved to be right. With that, I would like to thank you for your attention.